Hey, how's it going? Super happy to be making an introduction to you via video. I just wanted to give you a little bit of my time to just go over kind of what I'm seeing. Super excited that you also have a digital marketing background, so I think you'll, appreciate a whole lot of this. Um, let's kind of go from there. Um, so here's the final takeaways that I will sort of explain. So I did, a little over an hour of research. I went through a lot of your competitors, so Free or Frey, however you say it, Frey non-alcoholic wines, Ariel Vineyards, Ritual Zero Proof, Three Spirits, Bonafide Foods and Beverages, and a couple other smaller ones, right? So I went through a few of these, the companies online that are in the non-alcoholic wines, champagnes, and beer section, specifically focused very heavily on wines for a particular reason, which I'll go into. But here's some major takeaways. You have an amazing website that is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. The optimizations even that I would suggest on your website are actually very minimal. It's actually more about the rest of your digital presence, which needs more attention. The thing is that like your website is so good, if you bring any visitors to it, it's actually really likely that they're going to buy something. So that's one. That's the first key takeaway. The second, which again, you know, to put a finer point on it, if I give your website 100 visitors versus your competitors 100 visitors, you can actually squeeze more value out of them, right? And that's a pretty important point. The second thing is the strongest competitors who are getting the most traffic are actually doing it mostly through effectively ranking themselves for the most important search terms on Google. They're actually not using paid ads in most cases. And the other interesting insight is that they have actually never used paid ads. And there's a certain tool I've used to kind of figure that out. But that essentially leads me to my next point, which is that we have the opportunity to strengthen your organic ranking for your website. And there's a lot of kind of simple ways to do that. Um, but actually, the most value that'll come for you from an advertising and marketing perspective will actually be a very simple pay-per-click campaign. And the reason for that is it's a wide open competitive field that very few companies are consistently putting time and effort into, which means you'll actually be able to go in there and beat very little, relative to other much more competitive markets. And then the last point is that your pay-per-click campaign is sort of your short-term strategy to start getting a little more revenue to the business. But the medium to long-term strategy is actually the organic one, which is you want to wean yourself off pay-per-click advertising and inevitably move forward into organic ranking, which will essentially be giving you visitors for free. And I'll give you a few approaches on how I think you can do that. Of course, if there's anything here you want to dig into a little further, happy to do it over a call, give you a couple of resources on things like I love letting businesses kind of just do their own thing too. But yeah, of course, anything here I can help out with. So let's get started. So I'll cover the really good things I noticed about your website, which is um, it's a highly responsive website. Again, highly above average industry standard. It's mobile friendly, design's really good. You have a really good selection, and for a lot of your selection, you have actually described the product pretty well. There's some of them where I saw, the product description is coming soon. So, that's a good sign that, your website is constantly morphing and changing over time, which is great. Search engines love that. Your email capture right at the bottom is also really good. Small suggestion, I'd also suggest you put that up here. So there's actually a way to edit this ribbon so that you'll actually be able to put it right here next to it. So they can keep in touch and throw the email in there if they're kind of in a hurry. And I'm assuming you have a pretty good, email marketing system or campaign or drip campaign. Happy to talk to you more about that. But I do think that's a slightly less return on investment activity as of this point. And then, you've used Shop Pay, which is best in class industry fast checkout. Checkout experience is really good. And I checked out your Instagram page. You do have a little under 1,000 followers, which is totally okay. But I see some organic posts happening occasionally, which is a good sign that you're willing to, invest more time and effort into it. So all great things, right? One of the things I would suggest actually is adding a little more video to the website or things that people can actually click into and engage with. The reason for that is a couple of these metrics called dwell time and how long visitors spend on your page. The more time they spend on your page, the more Google believes that there's something valuable on this page that users seem to be finding interesting and engaging with. And so the way you can optimize more on that is adding a few more, animations or video or really simple things on the website, even if it's something like where a person is like making wine or your process, or somebody's talking about something, maybe a case study or review, anything of that sort would be super helpful. A good example of this is a company called Tulip. So the way Tulip does this, and again, on a very different space, I totally understand that, but the way Tulip does this engagement technique is they actually have things on their website which are constantly moving, and you'll see these things will start to animate. Right? So again, this stuff is kind of meaningless um, because I don't yet know what Tulip even does. But they have a lot of opportunities to engage users very heavily because users would sit and watch this stuff and they'll actually try and click on some of these things, just, human psychology. And there's a lot of places on the website where things are just, moving around and, there's things to click on and interact with. And Google absolutely loves that stuff, right? So again, these are things you can do, but I actually wouldn't recommend even like doing that too early. I'd recommend staving off on that for a little bit. So these are a lot of the really great things that are happening already on your website. So now let's take a little bit of a deeper look at the competition. So I've used a tool called SpyFu. It's kind of one of the best in class, digital marketing tools that, of course, there's hundreds of these out there. But from my experience, this is one of the really, really good ones, right? So let's take a closer look at this. And so what I've done is, again, I've gone through aerial vineyards and a few others. But what you'll see here is keep an eye on this chart, this number, and this number, right? So the way I would read this is Aerial Vineyards gets about 2,600 monthly visitors um, on their website, and they get zero from paid pay-per-click advertising. Pay-per-click advertising, if you're not familiar with it, is when you Google a word, say when I Google something like dog toys, I'll have organic search results, and then I'll have the paid ads right at the top. I click on the pay ad, the company that's placing those ads pays for every click. Those are pay-per-click ads, right? No reason why most people should even know what that is, but I always like kind of explaining it a little bit. So essentially, we just scroll through a few of the competitors. You'll see Aerial Vineyards, 2,600 monthly organic visitors, no paid traffic. Free Wines, 10,800 monthly organic visitors, no paid ads. Three Spirit, 99% of their traffic is organic. They have about 800 visitors coming every month. Bonafide Foods. This company is one of the outliers where they invest, reasonably in Google Ads, but their website is about like 5% of how amazing yours is, right? You can go check them out, and it's kind of laughable. So this is a good example of kind of if you invest in Google Ads, maybe how much traffic would you expect? So you'll spend about like $300, you'll get about like 500 visitors every month, right? Again, it varies from time to time. You can get lower, you can get higher. That's kind of a reasonable rule of thumb, right? So then let's go to Ritual, zero proof. We can see they get about 7,000 visitors per month. They get about 140 from pay-per-click campaigns, and they invest about $150 per month in pay-per-click campaigns. Great. So again, if you take a step back from what I've just showed you, and I know it was a lot, but I'm going a little faster because you do have a background in this. But most of the competitors are getting traffic organically, and we'll dig a little deeper into that in a second. But the traffic numbers are extremely high compared to dry goods, based on what I have seen for dry goods. And again, Ahrefs is again one of my other sort of favorite tools. But you're ranking for about a little over 100 keywords, but the organic traffic is pretty low, which means that there's a lot of potential that we can essentially tap into because and again, I'm happy to sort of run this for you. Let's actually go here. Let's throw this in here. Oops. And we'll basically see something of a similar story where, based on what I've looked at so far, you're not getting a whole lot of organic traffic to the site, and we can really change that. There's a lot of potential here. So this says you're getting about 20, 21. Of course, everything at the end of the day is kind of an estimation. Looks like you might have gotten some press or some publicity here, which is always great. But again, you need a sustained engine that will keep the visitors coming to you. And I can see you haven't invested in paid ads previously, which is totally okay. Um, so let's look at what is possible here. Let's actually look at organic search rankings. So if we look at freewines.com, which is a pretty formidable competitor, what are we seeing? They're ranking a lot on organic keywords that are specifically related to their own website and a key search term called non-alcoholic wines. So an easy way to read this thing that I'm showing you is non-alcoholic wines is something that is searched by about 19,000 people every month. And it has a keyword difficulty score of a 31. A way to interpret that is 90,000 monthly search volume is actually very high. So that's great. You're in very much the right business. And keyword difficulty of 31 is actually pretty high. Generally, I always recommend not expecting anything to happen in about four-ish months if the keyword difficulty is anything above a 10, from my experience. Um, so you can go after keywords with a slightly lower keyword difficulty, but that's actually kind of a medium to long term strategy. So what we can do is we can kind of advise you on how to rank for key search terms like non-alcoholic wines. I even did a couple other sort of searches to say, show me anything related to non-alcoholic, so we can see key search term like non-alcoholic beers. There's about 33,000 searches in America every month. Non-alcoholic wine, 19,000. Best non-alcoholic beer, about 7,000, but these keyword difficulties are actually pretty high. There's some here like best non-alcoholic wine and non-alcoholic gin with much lower search volumes. So it's kind of debatable on whether we should be going after that right now versus holding off on it. So what would we recommend? Um, so in this case, right, even if we look at a few more keywords, like the gluten-free side of things, it's again very much the same story. The high volume stuff has very, very high keyword difficulty, right? And so what we recommend is actually investing in pay-per-click campaigns. We can even tell you on how exactly to set this up. But we actually looked at like some potential ads on non-alcoholic wines, and I know there's a absolute lot going on here, but essentially this tool allows us to see the history of all the companies who have ever bid on the key search term non-alcoholic wine, and we can see what their ads are like. And obviously, we're looking at the right keyword because it's the one that we verified with multiple tools that has a very high search volume. So if we go and search for things like, non-alcoholic beer, for example, we can go to the pay-per-click research section, go to ad history. Oh, oops, I think I defaulted back to that website. So give me 1 second, I'm going to pause this. Yep, so you can see for non-alcoholic beer, here's some terms and related terms. If we go to advertiser history, we can see that for non-alcoholic beer, there's also people are not investing in pay-per-click ads, and so it's a wide open field. In many cases, when companies try to bid for these ads, you can see Amazon comes in and makes life really difficult for them. But in this case, Amazon has actually calmed down a little bit on advertising for these key search terms. There's still this company called Brewdog, which now is has the number one position, and their their total budget per month is 513. So it's not a massive budget, but they're able to get rank number one here. So you can see how this is actually working in some other tangential spaces. And the doors are wide open to invest in pay-per-click ads and really get some results here um, for the key search term non-alcoholic wines as a start. Other ideas is you can actually bid on your competitors' keywords because you can see that people are searching for free wine. There's about 2,300 people searching. They have position one, but you can actually bid on that, and the cost per click is it's actually not that high. So you can bid on that and actually siphon away some of their traffic. Um, and over here we can see that keyword difficulty is kind of low. So one of those medium to long term strategies that we mentioned is write a really good article talking about how you compare to free wines, and how you differentiate between them. Make the term free wine show up a bunch of times. Make the key search term non-alcoholic wine show up a bunch of times in that article. Make sure the article is about 1,500 words or longer. I would actually recommend 2,000 words and above in this case because the keyword difficulty is so high. Have that get indexed to your website, just like one of the blog articles you have already. And then it'll basically begin to rank, and it'll potentially like rank on page one for when somebody searches free wine. So you'll actually be able to take the competitors in two ways. One, through paid pay-per-click campaigns, and secondly, through organic ads. Um, so yeah, those are my recommendations. Uh, if you want any help with this, feel free to let me know. Uh, it also does seem like you're investing a little bit in, yeah, it also does seem like you're investing a little bit in Instagram. So we do have kind of a proprietary technique to help increase Instagram organic followings um, by relying on tapping core groups of high probability customers. So if you tell us what a good customer looks like on Instagram based on the hashtags, um, on the posts that they must be engaging and liking, based on other pages that they might be following, like all those things, like we can try actually building a greater organic following for you. And month over month, you'd see that organic following rise. It's always actually important. Further down the road, there may be a day where you might want to invest in Facebook and Instagram ads, and we can talk about that too. That's a little more of an unpredictable area in this case. But when you do decide to invest in it, having a good base of Instagram followers is very essential because one of the typical reactions of someone when they see an ad is they actually go and see how many followers are on that page and how many posts that page must have been putting up. And if it looks kind of skimpy, there's not enough social proof for the person to get over the hurdle and go to the website to actually buy something. So again, medium to long term strategy, you want to figure out a mechanism for increasing your followers. And again, we've done this for all sorts of people like cookbook writers and influencers and fitness coaches and gyms and goat cheese farms and whatnot. But it's a very common strategy to increase the organic following, like clockwork. So that's another thing we can definitely help you with. But again, the recommendation sort of still stands. And once you get some ROI from the pay-per-click campaigns, you can very easily reinvest it into the medium to long-term search engine optimization strategy that I talked about. So yeah, if you have any questions, you want to hop on a call, happy to do it. But yeah, thanks so much for the time. Take care. Have a good day.